God does a work to prepare hearts to come and follow him that most don't see unless they're expecting the supernatural, looking for some extraordinary work of the Lord. Good morning. This is Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, Illinois, with your thoughts for Friday. I love to read the story of the conversion of Cornelius in Acts chapter 10 and see God's hand at work. He is first described as a centurion of the Roman army, but he's also a very devout man who actually feared God with his household, and he gave alms. He even prayed to God. He is not the ordinary Roman soldier that we see in those times, because God had already been at work in his life. And God gives him a vision to actually call for the Apostle Peter so that he might hear the gospel message. At this very same time, God is giving Peter a vision about accepting that which others would deem as unclean, much like a Roman soldier. But God has made it acceptable, and he should accept it too. Now, when the couriers came to find Peter, they told him of the need to visit in the house of Cornelius and share the gospel to those who were seeking. It is so interesting to me that upon arrival, Peter begins to tell these seekers that it's really unlawful for a Jewish man to even be in the company of these Gentiles. So Peter begins to share the gospel with them. For as he says, "In truth I perceive that God shows no partiality, but accepts those who fear him and works righteousness." Peter begins to share the gospel with him, but from the very beginning, he talks about the ministry of Jesus Christ, explains who he is, what he has done for man, for those who are lost and those who are depraved in their sin. Even with his credentials as a devout man who feared God, Cornelius realized that he was lost. He had given alms, he had prayed, but he really needed God. So Cornelius realizes his need of salvation here, and when he hears the story of Jesus Christ, it's a wonderful thing that he accepts. One part of this story, by the way, that I really love is that Cornelius had gathered all his friends and all his family together, and realizing they were going to hear the gospel message, he sits them down here. In all my years of pastoring, I have never had a person call me over and say, "Listen, I've gathered everyone I know into my living room, and I'd like for you to come and preach to them." But Peter described the earthly ministry of Christ, how the world had treated him. This must have broken the hearts of these listeners to make a decision to follow him. While Peter is actually speaking and his Jewish friends are watching, these Romans begin to speak in other languages, showing that the Holy Spirit had actually fallen upon each of them. Now, the Jews in the room, including Peter, I'm sure, were astonished at the spectacle. When are we going to get to the place where we realize that God's miraculous working and his power should not surprise us, but we see his hand in everything around us? So Peter says, well, what prevents us from baptizing these believers? And they find water and they baptize them as a sign of including them in the New Testament church. Finally, they decide, Gentiles can come to Jesus, and Jesus actually does draw them. So if the Lord's drawing you today, what kind of decision do you need to make for him?